Good evening.
Jamie,
Hey,
here.
Ted.
You okay?
I always want to do that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Lens. I'm Jamie Widener, along with my co-host Chad Thomas.
Hey, everybody.
We're members of Nick's Paranormal, which hope you know that by now. But if not, hey. And then we are going to talk about some fun stuff that we wanted to figure out. Tonight's episode is about the Accomac Inn, a local attraction here in South Central Pennsylvania. But before we get there, Chad Thomas,
Yes, sir.
How was your week?
My week's been busy. It's not slowing down anytime soon. One of the kids had a dance competition this weekend, so there was that. And I feel like there was. I worked Saturday, Sunday, long hours. But that's good. Yeah. I'm not used to being at work at 5 a.m.
It's not a fun place to be. Like I've done that for years.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where if it's your scheduled shift, you do it. But when you're not, it's like you're off base a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway.
Hey Kyle, thanks for joining us.
So yeah. How about you? My schedule's not getting any better, but I have some fun things looking forward to this weekend. Which I'm sure
we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. Speaking of Kyle, we'll get to that. I was at that same dance competition, but I got to escape a little bit earlier than I planned. And actually, it's funny. It was in at Eastern York School District High School, which is approximately 7 minutes from the Accomac Inn. So I got a chance to scoot over there afterwards and do a little recon work and just to get reacclimated with the place that I've been to before, and just to really make sure it was as I expected it to be with all the information I've gleaned for this episode. But and that was the highlight of my Sunday right there. Was that, not the getting up at 6 a.m. to go to a dance competition. Nothing wrong with it.
Right.
So it was actually kind of enjoyable. There was some really good talent there, doing their best and boogieing along. So, and the team that the kids on did really well. So,
yep.
Everybody won. So, and then I think some Jim Max ice cream was acquired afterwards. So,
see, I missed that part of it.
So. Yeah, well, that's if you're ever in the Wrightsville, PA area, you got to stop at Jim Max. It's the old hand dipped ice cream joint. Petting zoo out back, got a little mini golf action going on. It's quite the complex, but it's been there. Gosh, it's been there since before I was born. So I'm sure Jim himself isn't around, but it is. Yeah. No, I've actually had this, but I just want I hold my nose and blow real hard, and it pops out. I don't think I can compare to your beard either, Jim. So thank you.
And a shout out to our buddy David Daramidi, who's watching as well.
Yeah, hey Dave. So and then we'll maybe talk about this a little later, but we have some plans for the weekend that will take us out of state. So did you check in with your probation officer before we planned this? You good?
I think I'm all right.
You think? I think we should know before we go. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about exactly. We'll get there toward the end. So let's get to it. Right, the Accomac Inn. So most people haven't heard of this place if you're not from South Central Pennsylvania, but those around here, I think certainly most have. Here it is. It is an age-old property. Located at 6330 South River Drive in York, PA, which really isn't York. It's technically Wrightsville, but it's one of those out in the middle of nowhere zip code things. So it's covered under the York, which is the major city in York County. It's the county seat of York. And it's along the western bank of the Susquehanna River. Accomac is a Nanticoke word that signifies on the other side or across the water, since the tribe was originally from southeastern Delaware and the eastern shore of Maryland. So we had to come across the water to get to it, hence the name. And the land that the property sits on was originally surveyed in 1725. Go to the next slide, please. I apologize, guys. I'm a bit froggy here. So here's a view of the river from that porch that you just saw and up at the property, looking out right onto the Susquehanna River. On the other side is the town of Marietta. And a little bit to the north, if you zoom in really close, you'll see a water tower and some smokestacks. That is the Armstrong Sealing Plant, for reference, which is a one of those places that's also been around since before I was born. So, all right, next slide. So, the property was originally called Anderson's Ferry Inn, as it was on the western side of the Anderson's Ferry crossing, and the plaque here depicts that. The Andersons were a industrious family. They figured out that there was a channel at this crossing point from Marietta to where the Accomac sits now, and they had a fleet of flat bottom boats, which was perfect to skim across, and it was quite a successful business for them for many, many years. If you're in the eastern shore side of the Susquehanna, Anderson Ferry Road is one that connects Marietta up to Mount Joy still. So that route still exists as a road that's very, very heavily trafficked. And this is just north of the boroughs of Columbia and Wrightsville, respectively. Columbia on the east side, of Wrightsville on the west side. And if anybody's a history buff, you know that the Wright family had the Wright's Ferry as well, which is part of the name of Wrightsville, and is the home of the Wright family, which is their house is still there at the 2nd and Cherry Streets. If you're into the history and you're in the area, it's a really cool tour to take, and I highly recommend it. Let's go next slide. So over the years, this is a rendition of what it looked like. The building to the kind of left center is the Accomac now. It doesn't look like that anymore, and I'll get to that in a minute why. And you can kind of see the flat bottom boats that are kind of drifting in here. Over the years, there were several owners and other names before finally being called the Accomac in 1875, which has stuck ever since. The property has survived many floods, and it's right at the river, and a very catastrophic fire that actually totally destroyed the inn. I'll get to that in a minute. After falling into disrepair, the Accomac permanently closed in 2018 and has been for sale since 2023, as I understand it. Next slide. So let's talk about the fire. In the early hours of May 17th, 1935, a fire broke out that would completely destroy the Accomac Inn. 4 people were sleeping in the building at the time, including the owner, whose name is Norman P. Pickle. Try not to chuckle at that. A couple who was sitting in a car nearby noticed the flames. Now, this was in the early hours of May 17th, 1935. And if you've ever been around the Accomac, there's nothing really down there. So I'm really not sure what this couple were doing sitting in their car nearby. Well, we know what they were doing, right? But
right.
Thankfully, they were there. Mr. Pickle and his employees were roused and escaped along with Mr. Pickle's dog, who was not named Mr. Pickle. Unnamed dog. They did form a bucket brigade, and the Wrightsville Fire Department was called shortly before the telephone wires was severed by the fire. Unfortunately, the fire company didn't make it in time, and the flames got beyond what the bucket brigade could carry from the river up with the limited amount of people they had. So the building was a total loss. The damage was estimated in that time to be $15,000. Doesn't seem like much, but adjusted to today's economy, that was $344,000. So Mr. Pickle would work to rebuild the Accomac and was able to reopen it in September. So 6 or 8 months later, he was able to get back into business. And he worked tirelessly to restore the establishment as it was pre-fire, including trying to find the antiques and other furnishings. And he had a lot of help with donations and of financial support, and also of goods as well. In total, Pickle would own the Accomac for a total of 35 years until his death in 1950.
Wow.
So, someone who loved the place, and it was near and dear to him, and he put his passion into it. So that's one person who may be lingering, right? Mm-hmm. There's another story, and this one, instead of being fire, is murder. So to step back in time, and back to 1882. The inn and fair were owned by a family named Coyle, C-O-Y-L-E, and the owner's son, John Coyle Jr., had an affection for a milkmaid working at the Accomac named Emily Myers. John's advances were unwelcome, but he continued to show his unwanted affection to Emily. Reports say that John approached Emily with a marriage proposal, which she immediately rejected. Being enraged, he shot and killed Emily in the barn as she was milking cows. Coyle then turned his pistol on himself, but his self-inflicted wound was not serious and he survived. There was suspicion that John had a mental disability that led to his intense attraction to Emily. So Coyle Jr. was charged with murder because he survived, tried, and convicted. His defense said he was mentally unstable, and the conviction was eventually overturned through appeal. Coyle was charged again with murder and was found guilty a second time despite his claims against his sanity. His guilty charge came with a death sentence, and he was hung in the town square of Gettysburg, PA. So, interesting there. That's where the circuit court was at the time.
Well, I think the counties were a lot different at that time.
Well, that's fair too. Yeah, it was different territorially, but the judicial seat was in Gettysburg at that time as well. So Coyle's family wanted to bury him in their family plot in Marietta, but they were refused, likely due to the nature of his crime. Next slide. So, as a result, John Coyle Jr. is buried under an apple tree about 50 yards from the Accomac up on the hill behind. His tombstone still stands there today. The Coyles sold the inn a short time later, likely looking to move on from the tragedy. If only I could grow hair like that. I don't know. Thanks, Tim. So, next slide. Through the years, and this is a view from the porch. Again, wonderful view of the river. There would have been dining tables out here in the restaurant era. The site has been as a working inn, since 1775. Next slide. In 1778, the Accomac hosted the Marquis de Lafayette and several members of the Continental Congress when they were traveling west to the temporary U.S. Capitol in York, PA. So getting this far would have been a taxing journey coming from the east, and York being another almost day's ride would have meant needed a place to stay. Coming across the river would have made sense to stop here. So there's been some famous folks in the house through the years. And next slide. One of the things being a working inn, and I just find this interesting because this is something I really, really like. But in 1892, chicken and waffles were advertised as the house specialty, and it stayed on the menu until the early 2000s. Now, I got a Southern grandmother, so I love me some chicken and waffles, and many other things that most people think are weird. But yeah, so it's interesting that it stayed on the menu for over 100 years, as a specialty of the house. So, and this is a good shot of some of the interior of the property. It's obviously been updated with good electrical lines and such, but there's still a lot of stonework, a lot of original hardwoods, some really unique features that the property has. Next slide. And some more of the interior. Due to its immediate proximity to the Susquehanna River, there have been many floods throughout the years, as mentioned earlier, especially when spring runoff comes from upriver. Fun fact here, the Susquehanna River is the second longest river in the United States, coming through mid-New York State all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay. Being a River Towns kid, I can tell you this is a true story, that it's a thing for people living in the river towns to stop and watch the river when it's flooding, regardless if they stop at the river parks at Columbia or Wrightsville or the 462 bridge, which has a sidewalk across it. I have done it. I have not been alone doing it. I don't know why it's a thing, and it's quite interesting because there's a lot of stuff floating downriver at that point too. A lot of tree trunks and other weird things. So you never know. Every time you see a tree trunk, you think it might be a person. I guess you want that sense of morbidity about it, but it's a thing. So, and then eventually the river, ebbs down, and you're back to business again. So, next slide. Stepping back to the fire in 1935, which led to the rebuild that Mr. Pickle did. A lot of the stone that he used in the rebuild was brought over from a place called Whitmer Bridge, which was a bridge replaced by a newer bridge. And the stonework, the stones which were already pre-cut were available, so he used a lot of them in the rehab here. And also, there's a nearby quarry in Wrightsville, so everything there is local. Nothing came from elsewhere, which is kind of cool. And also then looking ahead, Mr. Pickles' tenure of 35 years or so, back in 1972, a gentleman named Doug Campbell took over the Accomac, and he owned it for 46 years, building its modern renown, building it into its renowned fine dining restaurant that it became. It was a French fine dining establishment, banquet hall, and event venue under his tenure, up until he got out of business in 2018. So 2 owners, right, with a lot of passion, and 2 people, a murder and then a death. So next slide. One of the things that Campbell did, and I think this is really cool, and this is one of the first things I remember, is having a monthly ghost dinner. And it would come with an advertisement like this. There would be a specialized menu. Everything would have a fun name about it. But again, being fine dining, it would always be a bit more of a exclusive menu anyway. And then after dinner, there would be the time to get together and tell ghost stories. So the staff would tell the stories of their experiences. And of course, some folks came back and time and time again. A lot of folks were from the area. They might have had their own stories to share as well. So there's a lot of camaraderie. Of course, quite a few drinks probably too. Unfortunately, the building fell into decline, and it closed officially in 2018. Has been shuttered since. Campbell sold it to a gentleman named Henry Shank, and a year later, in 2019, Henry sold it to a gentleman named Tom Ott, which I do understand is the current owner, but that is debatable to some degree, because I think there's a transaction happened either in 2022 or 2023 that's just not well documented yet. But right now, the building is shuttered. And it looks just like it looks here. Just there's nothing going on. There's not even a for sale sign. So kind of strange that it's idle this long. Next slide. So this is Paranormal Lens, right? So we got to figure out there's some paranormal stuff going on here. So let's talk about the haunts. Serving as an active inn and restaurant, there are plenty of stories from the staff through the years and some guests about the encounters they may have had on the property. I'm going to walk through a lot of this. And staff have reported seeing apparitions, feeling a sense of dread in certain parts of the building, and a general fear of certain rooms, especially the second floor. There are reports of staff not wanting to enter the older parts of the building alone. The common claim is when going to the basement, footsteps are heard following behind down the stairs, but when turning around, there's no one there. A figure of a man who appears also is reported, and then he simply vanishes, and this has been reported many, many times. He is often seen behind the bar, so tends to believe he is someone of ownership, perhaps, or the staff himself. And the man has also been seen sitting at a table with his head down, possibly sleeping. But again, when approached, disappears. There are reports of a female voice heard on the second floor. A young woman has been seen who appears to be weeping or sobbing, potentially Emily Myers at that point. Not unusual to see in an old building, but lights flicker randomly across the inn. There are reports of loud banging sounds when no one is around. This is one I love. Tables and chairs and other furniture are often found rearranged from where they were when the staff left for the night. And phantom music can be heard playing inside the building in random places. So certainly seems to have some activity. And, I'll lean out to anyone, who's watching this to drop us a line if you've got a story too. I tried to catch up to a few friends who I know may have been there, but I couldn't get anybody in time to get to hear. But with that, obviously an old property, certainly some activity could very well be possible. So next slide, please. So this is how it looked as of Saturday afternoon. So my picture, actually. There is an annex to the building that goes off to the left. It is very not historically accurate, so I didn't include it here, but it has a dock. It's the loading and unloading zone. The kitchens are over here, and then the storage and all that stuff. But this is like a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot facility. It's huge. Just the original inn itself is massive, but then the add-on is another, a couple hundred square feet. So, and it's just so neat, such a place. Trust me, as I stood there for quite a while looking at the house. I looked at every window. I was looking to see if somebody was looking back at me. Sadly, no one was home that day. So to kind of put a bow on it, given its 240-year history of drama, trauma, and those who love the establishment, I find it hard not to believe that there has to be merit to the multiple claims of paranormal activity made by the staff and guests throughout the years. And for the record, this is a location that I would love to investigate. And if anybody knows anyone who can help us get connected to ownership at this point, please drop us a line here. Shoot us a message and say, hey, this is who you should talk to. Perhaps we can actually get something started, especially if the building's idle. I can only imagine, the taxes still need to be paid and so forth. So if there's a way we can help them out, and get a chance to come in on some kind of basis and investigate.
That'd be great.
So that's where we're at. So what do you think?
I mean, I think I'd love to get in. Yeah, there's a lot of yeah. I like what Bert says here.
Yes, sir, we could. And it would take a little bit of rehab, I think, to get to the upper floors to make it be a B&B. But it certainly is a doable thing. Hey, Jerry, thanks for joining us. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories, and like you said, there's a lot of passion in the building. So where there's passion, there's energy. Where there's energy, there's spirits.
Sure.
So yeah, I would say I'd love to find somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah. Hint. Q. For me, I've been there. It's been a while, because it's been closed for a couple of years now. But I was there somewhere in the early 2010s. Was that the lunch event? It's a daytime. Obviously, a lot of people milling around, but just the the grandeur of the place is not lost on you if you're if you see that, like, you get it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It was somewhere in the early spring, so we weren't on the porch at all. We were all inside, but the dining hall area is just the grand room is just really, really cool. The stonework inside and out is just neat. It's just the building's got a lot of charm, and I'm really honestly surprised that it's idle. Obviously, again, there's a lot of costs associated with stuff these days, and probably work needs done that we can't see from here and anywhere, from the layman's view. Needs full building.
From some of the quick articles I scanned just before we went on the air, I mean, the owner, the current owner, did a lot of renovation work. So I don't know if I'm not sure what's going on, but there has to be a reason it's sitting empty. So
yeah, agreed. And that's like a red flag moment, right? Because in this day and age, people are snapping up, investors are snapping up stuff. The private equity folks, this is a unique establishment, so it has an angle to be played.
Right.
One of the things that was a challenge a few years ago is it's a single road access to this place. And the road is to the right of this picture, and it goes up, climbs out of the valley there to get away from the river. The road itself washed out during one of the tropical storms that dropped on us 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. I forget how many now.
I remember. Okay.
The road was gone completely. So even the people, and then to the left of the property, there are, going down the way a little bit. The road does dead end. It doesn't continue down to Wrightsville. So this is like a one-way in, one-way out thing. People who lived down there couldn't get to their homes or couldn't get out of them either way. So that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. There was a story that I heard or saw that someone was interested in the property and using it to go back to the river view of it, using it somehow to maintain like a travel point across the river to bring folks over here as an event space from Lancaster County, like Marietta and Columbia, whatnot.
Okay.
And that sounds cool until, somebody has too many and starts being a fool on the boat, and then they go in the water. So
right.
I can see why that would not work out real well. It would probably be me. Okay, let's be honest. But as far as, that's the challenge I see. It's just where it's at, but it is a gosh awful beautiful place, steeped in history, and it just makes me get geeky every time I think of it. But I don't know. Just got to crack the code on this one.
Yeah. So just again, doing some quick research. You had me looking some things up, trying to find some articles. So I can back you up on the chicken and waffles because in newspaper, I have a subscription to a newspaper archive, and when I searched Accomac Inn, 95% of what came up was ads for chicken and waffles. So it was the thing. It was also the place to have business meetings and official events for some things in York County, stuff like that. And there's also a book written about it. I don't know if you're aware of this, called Across the River.
Yes.
By Michael Maloney. So if you want more information, do you have that? I mean, Jamie, I know you.
This is the one time I didn't buy a book. Okay. I know. Between getting out of vacation and getting other stuff caught up, I didn't have time to get it or get to it. I did, though. I did over the weekend pick up this book, the Big Book of Pennsylvania Ghost Stories, Barnes & Noble. And it is quite interesting. I am 50 pages of 300 and some odd pages in. This individual tales, the state's broken into regions: east, central, Gettysburg's by itself, the west and the north. The Accomac is, they gave it like 3 pages worth of information. But there's a lot of other stuff too. So perhaps an episode or two might come from this book. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Well, we did want to focus on some local stuff, so you got plenty of things there. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I go back to what I said before. I wish we could figure out who and how to get a hold of somebody there and get in, get out kind of thing. I get into it, whether we can get in or just get away from it altogether is a thought. But it's a lingering thing. So if anybody knows anybody, let us know. Let's say no one more time. No.
Well, I'm going to do some digging in some property records. Actually, I'm going to have to reach out to my friend, the historian, and see what she can find out and see if she can track down an owner.
Okay. So, there you go. Yeah, that's networking. Nice.
So,
all right.
So yeah,
well, that's what I got. Maybe an opportunity. Who knows? But it seems like it's a pretty cool thing.
Definitely. So you want to talk about what we're doing this weekend?
Yeah, well, you should talk about what we're doing this weekend. This is something you've set up, so I won't steal any thunder.
Well, there's a group of us going down to see. Well, hopefully we see Kyle, but we're going to White Hill Mansion on Saturday, spending an evening there, having dinner first, and then spending a night at White Hill investigating and seeing if we can touch base with some of the stuff going on there. I know our friend Chris Mendez was there a couple weeks ago, so he's always got information from there, and a good group of people. We're taking a new person with us we've never investigated with before, so I'm interested in that. My son Alex is going with us. He's always fun to have along.
Yep,
so,
absolutely. Good investigator, by the way. You should be proud.
Yeah,
he's got skills.
Yep,
skills and talent.
And he's got some sensitivities. I think he's a little more sensitive than I am. So, I mean, he cries all the time. No, just kidding.
I wasn't going to say that, but I thought it. I did.
So, no, but yeah, he's a good investigator, and you're right. I am proud of him. But yeah, it should be fun. Bert and Heather are going to be with us, and we always look forward to investigating with them.
Absolutely.
Our sister team is going to Selma Mention. I think that's the same day.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right, we should get some notes from you then.
Yeah. One of these days, Todd and Carmel.
One of these days, we're going to be in the same state at the same time.
So yeah, really looking forward to that. So.
Yeah, it's been a while, right? I can't recall the last summer there, but it's probably been a year, if not a little longer.
Well,
for me, I didn't make the last trip.
You missed a trip that we did make, but yeah, looking forward to that.
Last time I was there, I was in a boot and almost fell down from the attic to pretty much to the ground floor. But it just kept going like boom, 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 boom. That's a Bill Cosby skit. No, Eddie Murphy skit. The wife falling down the stairs. There goes my shoe. That would have been me. But yeah, so that's when I realized that I couldn't go to Red Mill because I couldn't navigate the stairs at White Hill. So.
And last time you were there, it was 95 degrees.
Oh gosh, yes.
Everywhere except the basement.
Yeah, and there was only like 90, so it was much
Right.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this weekend is supposed to be much cooler. I agree. So hopefully we'll be good.
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to that. And then speaking of White Hill, while we're plugging them, the following weekend is the White Hill Paracon.
Yep.
I believe that's May 11th.
It is the 11th, 10 to 5, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from what I saw.
And if I remember correctly, it's very inexpensive. I think it's $10.
This many dollars.
So, I mean, if you can count it on one hand, two hands, it's very reasonable.
Which public school did you go to?
We won't bring that up. So anyway,
there's some really interesting guests there, like some presenters. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but the one that really intrigued me was Katrina Wideman.
Katrina Wideman's there, Heather Taddy's there,
Yes,
a couple other people. Again, I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but definitely
we should probably get a slide for this next week.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm sorry, that's what we're laughing at.
So anyway, so there's that, and then there's also this Selma Mansion holistic fair the same day. So if you're traveling from our area, you can go hit one, take a break halfway, and then hit the other one.
I go long and come back just to make sure you get it all. But yeah, it's a good day right there. So very good day.
So yeah. And then, Jotnix has some stuff coming up. Yeah. So the weekend after that, we have another public investigation at Booby's Brewery, which we talked about last week. Jamie noticed that we're having some problems with the link from last week's show. So what I probably will do is repost it as a separate video tonight, so that way people have access to it. So it is available on YouTube, but we'll repost it on Facebook so people can get to it. Yeah, it still shows it shows it's still an episode in progress. For some reason, it never uploaded correctly, so we'll fix that. So I know y'all are dying to see it, right? Especially was on the brewery, so yeah, at the brewery, it's even funnier. That was fun. I have to admit, it was quite a bit of work to get set up, but it was fun. It was a lot of work. One off the whole time, and yeah, it was great to have David back with us. In this setting, we see him, of course, regularly when we go investigate. But it's getting the gang back together, or the band, as you will. So it was really cool. David, the seat's always open, Yeah, there's room for one more screen here, so we got you. They went. So following the 18th, we have the June 1st, June 29th. That's our 2-in-1 month special. Got that one for the price of two. July 13th, August 10th, and then September 7th. So and more dates will likely come. We just haven't gotten that far ahead on the calendar yet. So more to come. Spooky season starts in September. So. And I bet this slide's going to be wrong because I'm tired and didn't have time to update it. Well, mostly right. So we are going to talk about the Accomac Inn today. We are. When's that going to happen? Dad, you get a pass. You put in like 1,000 hours this week, so it feels like it. So you're good. Next week, I'm going to try to have time to research the Fulton Opera House. Cool. Thank you, Michael. Cool. I'm going to try to have time to research the Fulton Opera House. I mean, I probably could do an episode without researching it because I worked there for a good bit of time and spent a lot of hours in the building, but I want to get my facts right. It's been a few years. Then you're going to talk about the Haldeman Mansion. Yeah, our old home, as Jotnik's, our first home, I should say. And you never forget your first place. So I will tell you this, Chad, and based on your schedule and the craziness, I've started this episode already. So if we need to swap a week, I'm happy to help there. Okay. So just let me know. I may take you up on that. So everybody stand by. Ready. We'll see which one appears next week. Okay.
To be continued or to be determined. It's that TBD band that plays everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
well, I want to caution here too. We're not confirmed yet on the 21st for the
right,
Commonwealth. This was the semi-private investigation we did a couple Saturday evenings ago.
right.
So we have to shore that up a little bit better. I can say this though, and this is a plug for the Commonweal, which is a community bike shop opening at 137 Oak Street in Columbia, PA. They're
Mm-hmm.
opening on the 17th of May. So by the time if we do the 21st, then they will already be open, or anybody can stop by during their hours and see this really cool place that's been turned over into this really cool place. So
Yeah.
they probably won't let you go in the basement though, because it's there. Crazy,
Which is probably good. We don't,
crazy sketchy, but
yeah.
Otherwise the establishment is going to be open and running, and cool stuff happens there all the time. So
yeah, and we can hint that the spirits seemed pretty excited about what the group was doing there. So
yeah, it's, as a new opportunity. No one's investigated there to our knowledge. It's been started for quite a long time, for that matter. We had a lot of immediate activity, which is rare. Those who investigate know. A new location it tends to be a little quiet, a little subdued, shaded, guarded. But this was almost instant activity. So and multiple devices and so forth. So hopefully, we're still going through evidence on this too. So we're not quite there yet. But we got some interesting stuff to hopefully bring forward.
I mean,
and we'll have some of the team there come with us too on that event.
Yeah. So it was definitely fun. I mean, there are some other haunted things in the area, so maybe there was already a learning curve that had happened.
Right. No, that's true. Very. Full disclosure, it's right next to the Miller Mansion, the Samuel Miller Mansion. 135, I think, is Locust Street, which is now my haunted manor. So there could have been folks coming to us who wanted to get away from there, who, for all I know, and I joke to say that, but you never know with proximity, who's coming from where. So
yep.
It was interesting. That was a good night. It was a really good night.
Yeah.
And all locations that we were at the property.
So
more to come.
Yep. And there were plenty of other spirits flowing that night.
None that we had.
No.
But yes.
So let's see then. I mean that pretty much
that covers us really, other than the outro usual ways to find us. Facebook, of course, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and our new presence on Twitch, which we've had a couple of viewers come to us from there already. So this is also really cool.
Yep. And as usual, we want to thank you, the viewers, because we couldn't do this without you. I mean, we could do this without you, but
we're boring. Like talking to each other.
We spend enough time sitting in the dark talking to
each other, ourselves. Either way,
have other people in the end at least listening. So we thank you. We do appreciate it. So join us every Tuesday night. And with some of you we will see Saturday. So looking forward to that. Anything else, Jamie, that you want to wrap this up on?
I don't. It's a little bit extra found time tonight. Obviously, I think last week we went like an hour and a half or so. So, a little short episode tonight, nice and tight. Thanks as always, Chad, for making this look good. You're the wizard behind the curtain, and making the magic happen. So thank you.
Of course.
And then look forward to. I'll see you this week, I know, but I'll look forward to getting out to Jersey on Saturday evening and digging into the White Hill a little bit deeper. So
So
I every time I think of White Hill, I can't stop but smiling. It's just that place, and I'm happy and very privileged to be able to go back time and again to investigate. So thanks to the friends of White Hill for allowing us to come and having the event, the opportunity for this kind of event to happen. I hope we can do our part to help you keep it going.
So
all right.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to roll the video, and I'm going to go catch up on some sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, all. Take care.